Is your diesel A2 due a service? Mine is, and today I'm going to walk through the full steps of changing the oil, air filter and cabin filter on this 1.4 TDI 75 horsepower model. Okay, so we've got everything here we need to do the service. Got some oil. This is VW 507 spec 5W30, which is good for our TDI engine. We've got Bosch oil filter, air filter, cabin filter, and a new sump plug. In terms of tools, we've got a oil catch can here, good for catching our used oil, good with a spout, some empty containers to put the oil into afterwards, some gloves. And in terms of tools, 36mm socket for the oil filter housing, 19mm socket for the oil drain plug, 10mm for the cover bolts and a few other bits and pieces like the drain, like the undertray, a T25 also for the undertray, and a couple of bits for that, a magnetic tray which is good for the screws, and this little tool off the internet which I'm going to use and try out for the drain plug as well. In addition, a good socket set is handy to have. Despite what's often said about these, we do have a service hatch, but it's actually very easy to take off the actual bonnet or engine cover itself. So we just twist the two grey plugs anti-clockwise, like that, and then pulling slightly forwards and upwards, we can remove the cover. So next thing we're going to do is get the engine nice and warm and up to operating temperature. It's just so the oil can circulate round and be nice and hot and thin, so it will drain better out of the engine. Also, if your undertray is still fitted, then that's the next thing you want to remove. There could be a million different ways these have been fitted 20 years later, but in this general case you can see here there should be some T25 screws that hold the tray around the circumference. This is 3 of them certainly inside the lower part of the wheel arches, and you get some on the front lip as well. I think there's supposed to be about another 3 or 4 on the front lip. You might be able to see in there that I had some random screws on mine as well, and I'm using a little like thumb tool there which I find useful for using the bits. And then on the inside of the wheel arches you should have some 10mm bolts that will hold the undertray up in there, and then you can remove the undertray out the way. And then next up I have a 19mm socket on the drain plug ready to go, and I've also got a oil drain pan underneath ready to catch the used engine oil when it starts to drain out. Now these drain plugs, you can find that they've been over tightened and they're quite difficult to certainly get going. But if you did have an undertray fitted, there's a chance that you could do this oil change without removing it, providing you were just doing an oil change, because there is a cutout for this particular part. But you need quite a bit of space and the car jacked up high to get that visibility, I think. Of course we're going undoing, so turning anti-clockwise if you're looking from the back of the vehicle forwards. Right, so let's get our tool and we'll see if this actually achieves anything. Looks like we're not quite there yet. There we go. There we go. That wasn't too bad. And so now we're just going to want to let all of that oil drain out. I think we'll also give a little clean up underneath here as well. Which is one of the problems with an under tray, is that it will hide oil leaks. So perhaps you get to know about them a bit later than would be ideal. You see we've got a bit of something just here. There we go, so these last drops might take a while now, so we'll leave it to drain out. So I've left this for a while now, and I'm happy the drips have stopped, so I'm just going to wipe up what's left. Right here, and I have cleaned up the rest of the other side as well. So cleaning up the old mess is going to make it easier to see if our new drain plug leaks at all. So I'm going to push the old oil out of the way, and then we'll get our new sump plug ready. So here's our new sump plug. I'm just going to carefully put that into place. And of course you can use an extraction tool and suck all the oil out using a tube, but if you see the shape of the oil pan, there's going to be old oil that's going to collect in pockets in here, and it's going to make it really difficult to get everything out. So it is the best way to come and do it via the sump plug. And it's also a good opportunity just to make sure everything's good under here and clean everything up as well. I guess the last person who worked on this, which I think was the local garage of the previous owners, there's a lot of jobs on this car so far that seem to have been attributed to them, and they've just not been done, the kindest way to put it, I would say, not been done with the appreciation of someone who's looking after their own car, let's say. So everything done up like overly tight, not a lot of care and attention, some things put on just incorrectly, like the brake pads. But in this case, don't want to over tighten this if you can avoid it, because of course it's an aluminium sump, so you can strip the threads if you're not careful. We need to be tightening to about 30 Newton meters if we're going to do this properly. So see, no more than that, and that should be fine. We can keep an eye on this, and hopefully it hasn't been damaged before. It did look like there was some evidence of, it was either old oil or maybe a little bit of black silicone gasket been put on the previous one, but we'll see. Get everything nice and clean, so we should be able to see quite clearly if anything leaks off there. 25 Newton meters, not 250. Now with the old filter, you can, if you like, tear it apart to see if there's any issues going on inside there. But in this case, I'm quite happy to carry on with the service. I'm just going to take the old seal with this hook tool, like so. Then our new one can go on, and then we'll put the new filter into place at the top. I'm just going to pop that down a second. I'm just going to use a bit of fresh oil around the seal to get nice and lubricated and into position. And unlike the last person who did this, we only want 25 Newton meters, so at the moment I'm going to do it hands tight for now, and then we'll do the final tightening with the torque wrench. We're going to back it off a little bit. I'm going to go back nearer to about 20 Newton meters. We don't want to over tighten this. Of course, partially because it is just plastic, but there's a lot of heat and everything that's going to go through this, and we don't want to distort the gasket or anything like that, so 20 Newton meters should be plenty. Just like that. So now we can put the fresh oil in. We're going to need over 4 litres of this, but the actual amount will vary, so we go for about 4 litres and then we'll see how we get on. And ideally we're going to want to hold the oil can sideways, because when the oil's coming out, the air needs to get back in, and it can never do that with it this way because there's no space for the air to get in. So we hold it sideways. We should avoid glugging in here. So if we see like that, we've got a nice smooth flow and the oil won't glug, which can lead to quite a bit of mess. Just let that flow in. Of course, it's always a good idea before you commit to too much, just to check and make sure you've got no leaks. As we can see, look all okay as far as drain plug goes. So just keep an eye on that, because it's not fun to empty 4 litres of oil all over the driveway before you realise. And I'm not so sure they really solved the problem with this particular style of thing. It feels like it's far more hassle actually to refill the oil through this, because you know you're going to take the lid off anyway. Designing in a method, on the other hand, for a driver to top up the oil in between oil changes and to spend all that money on that design doesn't necessarily kind of give the impression that it's a vehicle that doesn't need servicing. It's kind of a contradiction to sort of have a engine cover or bonnet or hood that doesn't open, as if you're suggesting you don't need to be under there, and to actually give the user some sort of facility to be putting extra oil in between service changes. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe that's why we haven't really seen this on any other vehicles since. It's like a party trick. It's a solution to a problem that shouldn't need to exist in the first place. So we're pretty much there now. So what we'll be able to do is carry on with the service, and then once we're ready, we'll run the engine up and we'll be able to check the levels once again. Everything nice and warm. Of course, a future version of yourself may appreciate it if you give everything a good wipe over and clean down. Now the air filter is up under here, underneath where the under tray would be. So here's an inhabitant of our air filter, an old moth. However, we should now be able to just pull it out of the way, like that. Here's our old air filter. See, it was a Fram air filter. A little bit of stuff inside there, not just the moth. So, as you see, we're going for a champion filter this time around. We will pop open, and a little bit of a difference. Yeah, so let's slide this into place. There we go. Once it's pushed into place, it will just hang there. And then we'll leave this in as it was before. So that's where I want to go in. On there. Okay, so that's it, back on and sealed up. So that's the air filter done. Now, as far as the cabin filter goes, we did cover this in the previous video, but you'll see there is this cover on this side, and then underneath here to move these clips back and out the way, and then that should give us access. So to the cabin filter, which will just pull down and can be changed, and then obviously to put it back into place. You can see here the little tabs, so this will slide up and over and holds them in place. I just need to line this up, yeah, with the little tabs, like so, and then it'll clip into place. And now here's the service indicator. So if we turn the dash on, we'll get this service warning. So what we need to do is put our finger on the right hand button now, the trip reset button, which is on the right. Turn the ignition on. Let's say service, then we want to press the other in. So now we've got both pressed in, and we can let go. And if you would have seen there, when I did press the left one in, even though my big orange hand was in the way, the message on the display changed to say, I think it's service in 9,000 miles or something. So if we turn it back on now, that's our service reset. And just to check once more, there we go. So that's our service light reset as well. So that will come back on in about 12 months time, or 9,000 miles, I think. And we'll run the car up, and then we'll check for leaks and see how we get on. Run for a while. We can now just recheck our levels, make sure we're happy. Don't be too worried if the oil goes black instantly again. It's just a diesel thing, something you got to deal with. But we're going to check, see if we can see any leaks, which I think are all fine. Yeah, we can just put everything back together again. So all that'll be left will be to put the under tray back on. I'm not doing that at the moment because I've got other jobs I need to do. If you want to see how to change the fuel filter, click up here. But that pretty much covers it, so you can save a lot of money, and it's pretty easy to do a service on these cars, and these engines are really good if they're looked after, so well worth doing. But if you like this video, be sure to like. If you want to see more videos like this being recommended to you, be sure to subscribe because that's free. Leave your comments and thoughts down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.